will say that our business is stronger than it has ever been.
The success of growth and where I see companies growing consistently really is your people.
I mean, the story is not, does it make power? Because they all make power. The story is, what does it power?
This is What Solar Installers Need to Know with your hosts Hervé Billier and Joe Marhamati.
Hi there, it's Hervé and Joe with What Solar Installers Need to Know, where we interview solar CEOs and experts on how they run their business on the solar coaster. We ask their private revenue numbers, we give actionable advice, and learn about trade secrets so you can run and grow your solar business. Joe and I built a solar company from 0 to 12 million in sales and got successfully acquired. If you'd like to do the same or do better, go to sungro.com/blog to get actionable behind-the-scenes lessons on running and growing your solar business. And now, without further ado, let's jump right into the next episode.
Hi, Ravi. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Hervé. Long-time listener, first-time caller, as they say. So excited to get on the show finally. And thanks for having me. So quick little fun fact about me. My first name means the sun. I was born in India and named by a monk there. So I like to say I was destined to get into solar by having the first name be the sun. I've been in the clean energy space for 2.5 decades, started in the material science lab, then went into deployment and finally switched into finance after learning the golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules. And so I knew I needed to get in there to use that lever to accelerate solar and battery storage adoption. And this is what Atmos is here for. When we got started at the beginning of the pandemic, less than 1/3 of banks or credit unions had even a mobile app. They were definitely not doing digital instantaneous solar loan approvals. And so, that's what we as the industry needs when a solar installer is at somebody's home or at their business. They need to know, can this person obtain financing to put solar, battery storage, electrify their home, improve HVAC, et cetera. And so we said, okay, what do they need? What do banks, credit unions, they have across the world, they have $500 trillion in assets now. If we can activate, and it's very cheap capital too, because they're using our deposits. So if we can activate that, we can dramatically accelerate the adoption of solar and battery storage and other electrification measures. So we built technology in the business development pipeline so that banks, credit unions, green banks, CDFI lenders, government agencies can deploy their capital at the kitchen table. And so our installers can use that and basically have an instantaneous marketplace at their fingertips when they're talking to somebody. So it's not like we send them off and then they still take their sweet time in providing that answer. It all comes through our software. So within milliseconds, that person is seeing what they qualify for. And one difference about us, because we don't do the dealer fee interest rate model, it's somebody can come to us directly, get pre-qualified, and then we introduce them to one of our vetted installers. So we can act as lead gen for our installer base as well with fully financeable customers.
All right, that's clear. So you have your customers are the other financial institutions, and you provide the best rate of different financing models, loans, and so on to that homeowner. So can a homeowner also come to you directly?
Yeah, they can come to us directly, although and that's definitely increased over the last year, but our primary path to those borrowers is through our installer network.
Can you give some more information about Atmos? How many employees, maybe how many installers you work with, how many banks and credit unions? Give us some numbers.
Yeah, so we started at the beginning of the pandemic and they wouldn't let us do the lending. We started offering a competitive deposit product. So you open a checking or savings account with us. We would move that money into another bank or credit union and then finance solar that way. That's how we got our start. And then in December of 2022, we got our very first loan through a bank in New York. They said, we'll lend through you. And then we got a few more lenders in 23 and then 24. We were up to about seven banks across the Northeast and some in the Midwest. And then early this year, Clean Energy Credit Union came onto our platform. And now we expanded nationally. So we are across all of the United States with deploying Clean Energy Credit Union's capital. So solar, battery storage, heat pumps soon. We've got small business in some of our markets, and soon we'll have that national as well. And we are an 11-person team. We're heavily focused in software so that we don't need a very large team to do what we do, processing tens of millions of dollars with a very small team because we let software do it. It's very simple process. Does this person meet these qualifications? If yes, move them forward. If no, either provide more information or say, sorry, not right now. I mean, that's the basic flow, and software can do that most of the time.
So we also coming up to the R plus. So you are organizing the $2 a watt taco party. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it's on Taco Tuesday even, so September the 9th. And on LinkedIn, I've been writing a lot, like others, on getting the industry to $2 a watt after the ITC. And
Mhm.
I really think we needed we needed the expiration of the ITC to do it, because too many of the predatory sales and finance sort of played into that and made use of that to inflate the overall cost of the system. And we have focused on bill savings, and that's really grown the industry, but it's not providing the most value back to the grid and ultimately to that homeowner. It doesn't provide any resiliency. It doesn't provide any shared resources with neighbors. That's battery storage. That's other activities in there. And so when you shrink the cost of the solar side down to $2 a watt or less, which is possible in the US, now you're reducing the cost of the electrons that are going in that battery. So let's say we're selling at $4, $5, $6 a watt in some instances in the US, and now you're putting those electrons into a battery. You might deploy it once or twice a year because you're waiting for $6 a kilowatt hour, $10 a kilowatt hour in that market. But if now it's $2 a watt, maybe you're doing it much more frequently, and it's actually it's not these giant peaks of demand capacity going in there, but it smooths out those peaks and those curves. So it becomes a much greater value to the grid. And so this $2 watt taco party is about bringing our installer network together, other parties like Sunvoy, Atmos, Open Solar, Solar App. So the four co-hosts right now are Atmos, Open Solar, Solar App, and Wattbot. And we want to keep the conversation going. Is like, hey, how can we increase the margins for our installer network? How can we reduce the costs for the end customer? How can we improve the value of these services to the larger grid? So it's those three things that we're going after, and it's really about starting the conversation and eating delicious food together, because that's really where magic happens. It's like when you break bread or eat tacos.
Yeah, exactly. You may have noticed on LinkedIn, my co-founder Joe and I, that's all we write about on LinkedIn these days. It's all about like, how can we put us back in when we were running our solar companies? How would we reduce the cost and going to $2 a watt? So to us, it's a lot about focusing on O&M, reducing costs in your own processes. And we always say, like, focus on what you do best, automate the rest, which it comes with a little asterisk that Sunvoy provides automation for solar companies, right? But in general, you need to really look at your business and see what you want to be good at. You could also argue about like trying different things, adding a roofing business, adding an HVAC business, which is the opposite of focus on what you do best, automate the rest. It's more like diversify. But at the same time, you kind of need to, this is a moment where you need to check out different options and see what works best for you as a solar company. So going to $2 a watt, do you have some extra ideas or advice for people?
Yeah, I mean, first, it's sort of like going to that first bullet point in what you said, focus on what you do best. And it's about increasing the margins for our installer network. So much over the last decade plus of, hey, let's have a target of $2 a watt is, hey, installers, where can you shrink your margin? Where can you take the brunt of this? And that's not the focus and never should have been. It's, hey, we're trying to get our fees down to zero and the financing cost there. It's like, okay, how do we shrink that? How do you shrink customer acquisition costs? Focusing on, so there's the installers, they have to focus on where they can. It's like, hey, can you do 10 kW a day? I think that was the number that Tesla said, like an efficient crew should be able to do, or maybe that's per half day. How much can you install per day? And if there's a good benchmark, are you close to that? Injuries, are you avoiding injuries and the workers' comp payouts? Are you holding equipment for a long time? Like that's a sunk cost, that's a cost, and that should be avoided as much as possible. Where are you using automation tools like Sunvoy? And then there's us collectively. We need to focus on permitting reform, inspection, and permitting is broad. It's not just get the permit to do the installation, but the inspection of that work. I was talking to an installer here in California who basically got rewritten because, the types, use 3/8 bolts instead of 1/4 bolts on hanging up a power wall. And they're like, oh, that's not on spec. And he's like, it's bigger, it's stronger. I'm like, yeah, but it's not on my list. Yeah, do it again. So it is insane things like that we need to get rid of. Maybe we can do a virtual inspection. So there's those things where we need to collectively advocate and push for reform, permitting, inspection, and interconnection as well. Yeah, so there are those things. Use better financing. Don't just chase the tax credits and use a $5, $6 a watt TPO product because it has the tax credit. If you can install it $2 a watt, that is cheaper than that $5 a watt with the 30% tax credit. Let us use all the different aspects of that that value stream to drive down costs, improve value to the grid, and increase margins, for our installer network.
That gives me an idea of like when we reduce cost in a solar company, maybe you should make a bingo card about like, did you check every department that is just needs to be some little bit of a optimization everywhere? You mentioned install times. It's not about running on the roof or being unsafe, but if you look at your own process in your company, if days ahead what needs to be installed because you have another pipeline, designs are well done, then your installers, the crew lead, can see ahead of time what needs to be installed. The material is there ahead of time. And so the crews have everything. They've looked at a project before going out. They have the material they need because they know what they're going to install. So there is less runs to Home Depot, for example. And then you can install a 10 kilowatt in a day safely without doing crazy things. So if everything is structured, it is totally feasible to get to 10 kilowatt a day. Actually, we had multiple crews doing 20 kilowatts in 2 days each at the same time. I was running Ipsen. Interestingly, it was a moment where things were not going to perfection. And so I also went back out installing batteries in my guys. It took 5 days to install a battery. It was like way too long. So standard was 2 days. I think that we got reduced to even 1 day. But that first years were also complicated, right? It's not that we installed batteries every single day. I'm not talking about like 2-3 years ago. Yeah, as a CEO, I went back out with my crews installing batteries because the conversation was like, oh, let's see how long it's going to take. No, batteries 2 days. That's it. And so I went back out with the crews and showed that it could be done in 2 days. Now, I prepared for it. I didn't just show up unprepared. So, it was installed in 2 days. And since then, okay, I told the guys like, well, maybe I got lucky on this one. I also help on the next one. So I did another project again in 2 days. And so there was no conversation about how long is it going to take, because the cost to you as a company, if it takes more than 2 days to install a battery, like the cost is gigantic. So to bring down the cost, make sure that you're very streamlined in all your operations. Insurance, we had another podcast about the insurance. Make sure you don't overpay for insurance. So there's a lot that can be done. And maybe we should create a bingo card about each department that needs to be optimized, like a new fresh look. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Maybe we'll print some out for the taco party. And also it's like in that I've heard, so I can't reach that goal because of X or Y, right? There is this, there is this hesitation to reduce the cost sold because of the implication that I'm going to make less money, right? And so we have to sort of like, again, look at it like, where's the inefficiency and where's like increased margin, right? And it's just like, do I need a human to fill out this form? Can this form be done online? Can this form be done by software? So permitting, inspection, interconnection. Let's push for all of that so that we don't have, and even before that, does somebody inside of your company need to do that? Is there an outsourced company, that can take on that role and significantly decrease the costs while maintaining or increasing margin for you, without decreasing quality to the end customer? So these are the things that we have to look at as an industry. As like, what do we want to do in-house? What has to be done in-house? Where can we provide more value? And it's that relationship. It's making sure, we're not selling electrons, we're selling trust. I heard Natalie Cannell on LinkedIn. It's like, hey, let's make sure that we're doing that. It's like, give them the best value. Don't just, put in a process in place because that's way we've done it for 20 years. It's like, we didn't have the same technology we had 20 years ago. So let's evolve, and let's do better for all of us.
I didn't hear that one, but we don't sell electrons, we sell trust. I think that's a good one
Yeah,
liner, good
it's a
point.
paraphrase. It was a paraphrase. The key point was that we're selling trust now.
Yeah. And saving costs is also on my mind. At Sunvoy, the next piece that we bring out is like a document tool. What you just mentioned. One, you can avoid like DocuSign costs and PandaDoc and all those. But two, even if those softwares were for free, you still need to have a person fill those out. And so the next piece that we are building, literally to save cost and time and effort, is where everything's pre-filled automatically. Since we already have all the information, so that is the next major release that's coming out for us. So it's top of mind, not just for solar installers, but everybody that serves solar installers too.
Yeah. I mean, this is like here's another here's a relatively small thing, but it's just a gross example of sort of waste in the process. It's like you're talking to a customer, you collect their address to do the initial review, you send them over to me, I'm collecting their address to then do the pre-qualification on the financing. Then you're submitting for a permit, you're filling in the address again, and then on the inspection form, and then on the interconnection form, and then on the shipping manifest for the equipment. It's like, it's like one piece of data. Once it's in the system, it should just be passed along via, the system should just move things forward. And so it's just like all of these little elements of waste, as we bring them down, we'll do those three things: reduce costs for the homeowner, increase margins for the installers, and improve value to the grid.
And avoid mistakes. You can write every time you need to write that address somewhere, you can have a typo and miss things. So I want to have another question for you, Ravi. Like, what is one mistake that you see solar installers make that you'd like to, if you had a magic wand, like, man, I wish every installer would avoid that mistake. What would it be? Or one improvement that they could make?
Yeah, I mean, broadly, it's holding on to the past, and it's for all of us. It's like, oh, this is how we've done it, and it's like, wait, why do we need to continue to do it that way? Do we need to have a high paid employee do this one thing, or can we have them do something else that's of greater value and have systems or another company take on that function? I think that is where, and broadly speaking, right now we're seeing this mad rush of, oh my God, resi solar is dead unless you get TPO. No, like people were doing this. It's like, you can still find value. You can still make a great installation and investment without TPO, without the tax credit. These analyses are like, oh, this market's just going to dry up because, the tax credit's gone and they don't have TPO. Why? It's like, as long as you're not gouging on sales and finance costs, you can make the economics work. We need more efficiencies. So it's like, we've been selling with the tax credit. So don't just, immediately jump to like, okay, well, where's the tax credit now? It's like, no, there's great value here. Let's sell it. Let's do the analysis of what needs to be done and then make that work.
Yeah, no, I think we need to go to solar 2.0. Like, okay, like a homeowner wants solar and they pay you and you go install solar. I think now we need to start thinking about what else does our business has of value. If you have already trust of some homeowners, can you provide other services? I think we need to start digging deeper than just somebody wants solar, they pay us, we go install it. I think we need to go one step further in providing more services. And I believe too, like if you added $2 a watt, you can sell more of it without the tax credit. People want it. People read the news too about like what's happening to our grid in the United States. Right? So if you can provide resiliency, there are some of our clients that are in the battery first mode. Like they don't sell solar anymore; they sell batteries, and they happen to attach some solar panels to that thing. It's a different way of thinking about it. So listen to your customers, see where they are at, and don't make assumptions. Like it's time to kind of listen to those customers again.
It's like we're selling storage. And then fill it with the cheap electrons from the solar. Okay, that's where the real value is coming from, is that dispatchable electrons. But there's a great agile electrification group out of UCSD, run by Andrew Krause of Northern Pacific Power here in the Bay Area, and it's this thinking of solar-led electrification. So it's like, okay, you get solar down, and it's like, well, if you're getting solar and your historical use is this, but if you're getting the heat pump, it's this. And actually, the ROI improves. And it's just like, okay, great. Now you're cooling and heating your home with electrons from the sun, and everything is cheaper because you're sort of doing this deeper analysis. And it's like, okay, you get this down, and even in places where cheap natural gas is, you get those solar electrons down cheap enough. Now you can still have bill savings in the areas with cheap natural gas. It's most people don't get a heat pump because of bill savings. They get it because it's more comfortable, better control, it's safer, but there is going to be a bill increase in many parts of the US unless you can bring in cheap solar. So it's like, hey, here's this way to increase your sales by combining these things, and learn how to do that analysis.
Very good point, Ravi. What do you wish more installers understood about financing? Because you've been in the financing world for a while, and you even had like multiple small businesses and multiple venues, right? It started with 3 years ago, you were with My Energy Advisor. And then you also did Energy Wise, where you developed a new financing model, and then Climate Link. So you've been around in the industry for quite some time. So what's misunderstood in the financing world that you wish more installers understood?
Yeah. So My Energy Advisor was not actually in the finance space at all. It was a home energy modeling tool that we built 07 to 2010, utility bill scrapers before Green Button, a lot of you know it- a lot, a lot of hand built tools that now there are APIs for. And Enterwise was what I got into the Sunshot program in 2015 with, and that's really sort of the precursor to Atmos. Of let's use the mortgage event and refinance solar with mortgages. And then Climate Link is a network that we built, and it's really a community, and it's still ongoing. I just need to have time to organize more events here in San Francisco. But we did help startups raise capital and see that side of it from the equity piece of the capital. And really, for me, why I switched into finance, it sort of goes back to the Archimedes quote: "Give me firm ground to stand upon and a lever long enough, and I can move the world." And that's really what capital is. And so if you have access to this cheap capital, then you can make those electrons cheaper. So the dealer fee, we have to move away from just selling bill savings. That helps us grow, but that's not really what's of value here, of just cheap electrons between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. It's dispatchable energy, and that means we have to bring down the cost of those electrons, which means you can't use high dealer fee financing. That is not the high value finance. It's as close to that cash cost as possible, leveraging your local capital, your credit unions, banks, green banks. That is going to be the cheapest capital. And so either go direct or use a platform like Atmos that is connected to these financiers across the country, that can then serve you better and is transparent and brings forward that finance.
All right, understood. Ravi, before we finish this podcast, I want to ask you, as RE Plus is coming up, what are you looking for at RE Plus besides delicious tacos? What are some maybe vendors or partners you want to meet, or what are you hoping to learn something about?
Yeah. On the learning side, there's two things. There's one, we have so many installers and partners and many that haven't met before coming to the taco party that it's just like, okay, what are the ideas? What are you and I are coming up with this 9x9 square on our bingo card, or maybe it's only 6x6, but we want it to be 9x9. So it's, what other squares will these other installers and partners provide to that bingo square so that we can provide this template for everyone else? Like, hey, here's maybe it's only 6x6. Here's 36 squares that Hervé and Ravi thought of, but we wanted to get to 81 squares, and all these other people brought that in, and now all of these installers and people in the industry can think on that. So like I'm interested to learn what are these other techniques and tools to bring down costs, increase value, increase margin. And then I'm got meetings with other potential funders to bring onto our platform, partners to deploy faster, and then lots of installers. It's like, hey, let's get the word out. Let's bring down costs. Let's not chase the past, but let's really, drive value going forward.
On those wise words, Ravi, I thank you very much for the podcast. See you after RE Plus to have another podcast where we can discuss what we learned at RE Plus.
Hervé, looking forward to seeing you next week in Vegas. We'll eat lots of tacos together and come up with as many squares as we can.
Thank you. See you there.
Cheers.
If you'd like to do the same or do better, go to sunvoy.com/blog and get actionable behind-the-scenes lessons on running and growing your solar business.